There are 1.4 billion cars in the world, and the vast majority of those cars are, well, boring. But every once in a while, an automaker will build something special, an instant classic, if you will, and the world notices. They don't necessarily have to be expensive or even fast, but these are the cars that people remember. In this series, we're going to be exploring 21st century icons. And what better place to start than the controversial Chrysler 300?
A lot of people don't realize the Chrysler 300 was pretty much the original muscle car. Back in the early 50s, you had the Rocket 88, the Hudson Hornet, and the Chrysler 300. This one's a lot different than the one from the early 50s, but I like it. This is the Left Pedal, and today we're going to get behind the wheel of the 2005 Chrysler 300. The original Chrysler 300 came out in 1955 as one of the very first American muscle cars. Unlike the modern four-doors we have today, the sole purpose of the original was to be a race car. It was built for NASCAR racing, but the company had to sell some to the public if they wanted to compete. Over the years, the 300 had to evolve pretty quickly to keep up with the fast-paced American car market. And by the 70s, Chrysler decided to drop the 300 from their lineup. Shortly after that were the bad years for American cars. Rushed emissions laws devastated the US automotive industry. American cars quickly became slow and unreliable. By the early 2000s, the classic concept of the big American sedan just wasn't cool anymore. The world was turning to SUVs, and younger buyers were more interested in imports from Europe and Japan. Chrysler decided the world needed a new American land yacht. A full-sized, rear-wheel drive family car that you could take drag racing. The platform was called the LX, and they released it under 3 distinct models: the sporty Dodge Charger, the spacious Dodge Magnum, and the luxurious Chrysler 300. I've been asking people how old they think this car is, and most people don't realize it was built almost 20 years ago. The gauges are a little dated, and there's no aux cord. But you gotta remember, they built this car before the iPhone came out. It was a different time back then. I grew up thinking the 300 was so cool. It looked like something a friggin' mob boss would drive. It was the car on the cover of my favorite video game. It's so clearly and obviously an instant classic. A lot of people with actually fancy cars don't like the 300. It really wasn't that expensive. It was a genuinely high-quality luxury muscle car that normal people could actually have. So you have $30,000 V8 Chryslers going around blowing the doors off of BMWs. It got itself a bad reputation in the luxury car crowd. Now by now, some of you have probably noticed that this is not the high-powered V8 version. This is a limited model with a 3.5-liter V6. It's pushing about 250 horsepower, and it's pretty torquey in the low end, but when you get up to high speeds, you can really feel how heavy this car is. Now don't worry, later on in this series, you're going to see lots of brutally powerful V8s. But as far as the 300 goes, I don't know that the HEMI is the only reason these cars were so successful. The front seat of your car is probably just as familiar to you as your bed at home. Once upon a time, American car interiors were special. They stayed awesome regardless of how old they got. By the time the 21st century came around, they weren't even trying anymore. Everything was built out of cheap plastic, and they didn't bother with making anything look nice. Cars were essentially disposable. Then, sometime in the early 2000s, American car manufacturers suddenly started caring about these things again. And eventually along came this comfy 300 with heated seats and a little clock and a built-in GPS. It was a bit bland, but it had all the cool technology you could get at the time. The mirror would dim itself so that you don't have to worry about people's headlights. The quality of the sound system is still impressive today. The speakers sound good, and you can control the satellite radio and navigation system from the steering wheel. All your friends could fit in it and they wouldn't be smushed together, and even though it was a sedan, you still get people stopping you at gas stations to tell you they love your car. The driver's seat of the Chrysler 300 makes you feel like a winner. Of course this car was so successful. It's almost too good to be true. Let me get one thing out of the way right now. The V6 is not fast. This car weighs 4,000 pounds and 250 horsepower is 250 horsepower. It's torquey, it's got some oomph to it, but it's not a HEMI. It feels fast though. The handling is way better than I expected for what this is. It's surprisingly planted and pretty easy to control. It's hard to explain because it's not really all that fast around the twisties, but it's exciting. More nimble vehicles are gonna lose you in the corners, but you're not taking this thing to a racetrack. For a 2005 Chrysler, the suspension is insanely impressive. It just eats up the corners and absorbs all that energy so that you don't really feel much. It's big and it's comfy and it is absolutely 100% a boat. Chrysler wanted to build a fun luxury car, and that is exactly what we got. When this car was being designed, Chrysler engineers were sent to Germany to study with Mercedes-Benz. The Germans know how to build a luxury car. Much of the suspension actually comes from Mercedes, with some systems being found on even AMG models. The car wasn't perfect, the interior was pretty plasticky in the earlier models, and the transmission options were not up to par with the impressive engines. Those issues were addressed, and the car only got better and faster as the years went on. As far as the body goes, they basically just looked at the fancy, expensive British luxury cars, shamelessly stole the faces off of them, and gave it to normal people. If stealing things from the British isn't one of the most American things I've ever heard of, I don't know what is. So it's an American car, built with German expertise, styled like a British car, and here's the kicker. It's built in Canada. It's sort of a fancy Frankenstein, in a way. It was the mobster pimp car of the 2000s. You don't have to like the way it looks, but you are gonna remember it. 2023 is the last year for the Chrysler 300 as we know it, as well as some of the other muscle cars we're going to explore in this series. We're in a transition era now, with electric vehicles quickly shifting the car market. Who knows what the world of cars will look like 30 years from now, but I want to find the future classics of this exciting and very special generation of automobiles. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be traveling the country and exploring 21st century instant classics. So stay tuned, make sure to subscribe to The Left Pedal, and I will see you next time.